Minecraft world where I review things. And as you can see, if you've watched the last episode, I have done a bit of upgrading. I put in a little bridge that I have dubbed Sugarcane Bridge. And as you can see, it does not float. I may not be a competent Minecraft builder, but at least I know letting things look good. This is... what do I call this? I can't remember. Oh, Birch Lookout. This is going to be my home for now. I've kind of upgraded a little bit. I actually got my bed in this big tower here. And if we take a quick trip up here, I know this is supposed to be a review on a game, but I figure why not show off what I've done. And there's my bed. And this is inside the tower. There is like nothing inside the tower right now. I've really not done much, but yeah, this little tower outlooks over here. And by the way, that village over there is a destroyed village, and every now and then zombie villagers will spawn over there. And I know that's where I actually got my mine. I think my mine is somewhere near where my little cursor is. So I got this place that I built. By the way, this is all in survival. By the way, I did all of this in survival, and these are birch planks, thus the name Birch Outlook. There's a small tower here, but if we look on my map, that's the bottom of this map. I've really not done much in this, but yeah, you know. So on to the review, and me stop showing off. Let's go around here because I kind of set this up. Why is there an egg? Where's that chicken? So Azur Lane, I think that's how you pronounce it anyway. What is it a game about? Oh, it's a game about, well, ship girls. I've seen a lot of people in the actual review stating that this is sort of like Hentai Collection, only a lot more expansive and a lot easier to get a hold of, because Hentai Collection apparently is only available in Japan, whereas Azur Lane is, I know it's available in America, I don't know about anywhere else. So I sort of set this up because these are the three ships you start out with. The KMS Z-23 Ironblood fleet. She's from the Ironblood faction. You can pick one of these three ships. The HMS Javelin from the Royal Navy, and the USS Laffey from the Eagle Union. So once you download the game, you get this little neat cutscene of the there's a couple of Royal Navy ships sailing about, and it gives you sort of like a how to play the game through the manual system. Is this a game where you have to hold your phone kind of sideways until you unlock the auto battle feature? So it teaches you how to move your ships and how the big guns you got in the back from the HMS Hood. And I can't really remember what other ships that you get to play around with in that little intro sequence. But you're fighting against the Ironblood faction in the little intro sequence, and then all of a sudden in comes the Bismarck, and she one-shots the Hood. Which, if you remember in history, that's kind of what happened. The Bismarck and the Hood met in battle, and the Hood wound up getting sunk when the Bismarck's shot went through her magazine and ignited the powder inside of her magazine, blowing the ship to, well, bits. Sending, I don't remember the exact number of sailors to meet their maker. The Bismarck, as you recall from the history lessons, if you recall your history at all, was eventually torpedoed by the ship Ark Royal. Well, the Ark Royal was an aircraft carrier, and she sent up some torpedo bombers, and they was able to hit her steering gear, and the Bismarck was stuck doing a figure eight well, sort of like this motion, because they couldn't fix the steering gear. The only way to fix the steering gear was to pull her in dry dock and fix it that way. Well, she was like 10 miles from home when the rest of the British Navy system caught up with her, and, well, thus the famous song by Johnny Horton, Sink the Bismarck. And there's actually an old, I can't remember what year it was made, movie, Bismarck. If you want to go look some more of the history and what they actually had to go through to find this Bismarck. But on to the game. So after the intro, you're given the choice of these 3 ships. Now, besides the faction and the name, these 3 ships, from what I've been able to figure out, all have the same abilities. They're able to be retrofitted or refitted into a stronger version of themselves, but basically they all start out the same. And you can actually build these ships, but from the get-go you pick one. I personally chose the Z23 on my latest run through the game. When I first actually started playing and then I quit, I actually picked the Laffy, and I've not really, I mean, I've got the Javelin, I've not done anything with her, and pardon me while I go run to my bed, because as I said, this is survival, and I do not want to get blown up by a creeper or attacked by a zombie when I'm talking. So you pick one of those 3 ships, and then the game gives you wisdom cues where you build more ships. Now it's up to you on how you want to build your fleet. So if you want to do damaging, you can do heavy or light cruisers that or destroyers that can equip torpedoes, and in this game torpedoes do a lot of damage. And each one of these ships you actually get to pick from when you first start out do come equipped with torpedoes. Now in the game there are boxes that you can buy in the shop. Blue, purple, and gold. Now the only ones you can buy in the shop are pink, blue, and purple. Now, what I would suggest when you first start the game, save all your pink boxes, because you can take those boxes, and if you got 5 of them, you can turn them into 1 blue box, and then you save 5 blue boxes, and you can craft those into purple boxes, which gives you a better chance of decent armaments. So inside those boxes is where you get your guns, your torpedoes, your anti-aircraft guns, and all that stuff. You even get equipment that you can equip. You can equip the best thing you can have on any of your ships, especially if they are rated light or medium armor, is the box of tools, I think it's what it's called. But basically it will actually let your ship repair itself ever so often. That way you can keep your ship alive. And sorry I'm moving around a lot, I'm just like really cautious of creepers. So yeah, that's what I would suggest. I mean, open the pink boxes for a couple of times until you get a decent main weapon, a decent torpedo set, a decent anti-aircraft gun, and some equipment going. Then once you can figure out, once you can see that you've significantly upgraded your little ships, I would start saving those boxes. But like I said, if you go to the shop option in the game, you can actually buy the boxes from them and then save them up. You can do once you get to a high enough level, you can go and grind for the boxes in a special little side mission you can do daily. I think it's every Wednesday, Sunday, and I think Monday. You can do a special grinding session where it gives you boxes. Now you're probably thinking, wait, Fox, how do I get coins? Well, you get coins through your two ways. You can get coins on the map that you're doing your little grinding missions in. You can appear randomly. You can actually destroy old equipment that you're not using anymore to get coins. And they even got a system where if you build this little shop, they call it the canteen, you can actually generate coins over an hour. And of course, if you drop in microtransactions, you can get coins that way. But I have actually never done microtransactions in Azur Lane, and let me tell you, I will probably never do it, because the game pretty much for your first 8 days, as long as you sign in every single day on those 8 days, gives you a lot of decent stuff. And one of the ships that it gives you is another Ironblood fleet called the Prince Eugen. The Prince Eugen is a heavy cruiser. Though she's classified as a heavy cruiser, she comes with a main gun and a torpedo bay. And let me tell you, her and Z-23 together makes a pretty dang interesting fleet, because you got the Z-23 with her quick shot cannons, because the destroyers, they have like really fast firing cannons. They just don't do that much damage. But you got the Z-23 dealing out the damage from her little cannons. And then you got the Prince Eugen, which if you set her up right, can do as much quick fire damage as the Z-23. But then you let loose the torpedoes, and torpedoes, like I said earlier in this game, is kind of OP, because torpedoes, well, if your enemy gets hit by a torpedo, it causes massive damage. But my favorite torpedoes are from the Ironblood boxes. And another thing I would also suggest is anything Ironblood, keep it. The Ironblood boxes can give you magnetic torpedoes, which are just as they say, magnetic torpedoes. Those magnetic torpedoes, you fire those things, they will hunt your enemy down. Now the regular torpedoes, they just fire in a straight line. Now if you're doing the auto battle mode, your ships will kind of take a mind of their own and fire those torpedoes willy-nilly. But if you got the magnetic torpedoes, that don't matter. The torpedoes will fire and they'll go off in a kind of crazy pattern, then they'll come back into your enemy doing massive damage. And sometimes these torpedoes, no matter what kind of torpedo you're going with, can do as much damage early on in the game as a low rank battleship. And that's a lot of damage. So I started out with the Z-23, and I actually built a full on Ironblood faction fleet. Now in the game's current state, you can't really do that. I'm going to go inside. I don't know where those guys came from, but I remember those from last time I streamed Minecraft. They're not easy to deal with. Think they But in the game's current state, you can't really do that. You gotta wait for an event. Ironblood, most of its fleet are from events. Right now, my fleet consists of my Ironblood fleet anyway consists of the only 3 ships you can actually build or grind for. And that is some names I can't quite pronounce. But it's the 2 German ships that you can, the 2 light cruiser, I think they're light cruiser ships that you can actually retrofit. And then if you get all 3 ships and max them out to their highest potential, you can actually go into your collection screen and collect another ship called a Leipzig. Now Leipzig, yeah, it don't look that great, but she actually just recently, I think this year, or maybe got her retrofit, which makes her a little bit more able to survive. And the Leipzig is a light cruiser, which means she comes equipped with a torpedo bay and a main gun. So, Ironblood fleet is tricky to get a hold of, but good lord, do they do a lot of damage. Because in my backfield, I have the Tripits, and I also have the Graf Zeppelin. I also have the Ark Royale, because I don't have the Bismarck, because she's one of the ships, like I said, are from an event, and they have yet to drop that event this year. Now the other 2 factions, the Royal Navy and the Eagle Union, that you can first pick from, it's very easy to do. Excuse me, sorry. Very easy to do a full-on Eagle or Royal Navy fleet, because those you can either grind for or you can build them. And don't worry about wisdom cubes. I have got over 200 wisdom cubes, and like I said, I have not dropped a single dime in the microtransactions, because as long as you log in every day and do your dailies, if you do your dailies, you can get 4 wisdom cubes a day. Now I know that doesn't sound like a lot, but it depends on what you're going for. Light ships like destroyers and light cruisers can be built using 1 wisdom cube. Each wisdom cube can build 1 ship. Anything heavier, like a heavy cruiser or a battleship or aircraft carrier, takes 2 wisdom cubes. So you may be wondering, wait, if I can only get 4 wisdom cubes a day, that means I can only build either 2 or 4 ships a day. And really, if it's not an event season, which right now we're in event season, if it's not an event season, you only need to build, I think, for the dailies, is 1 ship a day. So if it's not an event or event you're really interested in, you can just build 1 ship a day using 1 wisdom cube, i.e. build a little destroyer or a light cruiser a day, and then bank the other 3 wisdom cubes until there's an event you like, or there's a ship that you're really trying for. And another thing, interesting thing for Azur Lane, yeah, you can build the ships, but you can actually go to your collection screen and it'll actually give you a full list of the ships you can get, whatever faction you want. I mean, there's more factions than the 3 you choose from. There's the Dragon Emperor, i.e. China. There is 2 factions, I think they're French, the Victoria Domia and the IS Nubia, which I think are the French. I am not for sure on that one. I'll have to look into it, but I've only got maybe 1 ship from them. Or no, actually, I take that back. I haven't got a ship from them. There is the Italian faction, which I can't quite pronounce. But their faction is all from an event. You can only get their ships from an event. There is the Sakura Empire. Now, the Sakura Empire are interesting. They're the Japanese fleet. The Japanese fleet are heavy in double torpedoes. And double torpedoes, if you put magnetic torpedoes on somebody that can that has the skill double torpedo, it is hilarious. And of course, they just actually released the last event was the Russian ships, the Northern Parliament ships. But again, they're the only. Their faction is only acquired through an event. So, as a player of, I'm guessing, roughly half a year, what I would suggest anybody do is, like I said, any Iron Blood boxes you can get, save them until they're purple, and then open the purple boxes, because that will give you the maximum chance to getting both a purple magnetic torpedo and a purple gun from the Iron Blood faction. And the Messerschmitt and the Ju-85 dive bombers, in my book, are some of the strongest fighters and dive bombers in the game. Now, if you want the strongest torpedo bombers, you go with the Royal Navy's Barracudas or Swordfishes. And the only thing I will have to say is this game is very historically accurate. So the Eagle Union don't have strong planes, but they're in the same boat as the Sakura Empire. The Sakura Empire and the Eagle Union don't have strong planes in the game. So they're both tied, but when it comes to the raw damage, I will still say the Iron Blood's magnetic torpedoes and guns can rival the Royal Navy's guns and torpedoes and the Eagle Union, because it seems to me the Royal Navy and the Eagle Union both share the same type of torpedoes, which is just a standard torpedo. Now, another thing I would like to point out about Azur Lane is it can be a very grindy game depending on what you want to do, what kind of fleet you want to build. But at the end of the day, this mobile game has captured my attention span more than any other mobile game I have played. and you don't really hear anything about it. Every now and then, I might, when I'm browsing YouTube, get a ad for Azur Lane, but for the most part, you'd hear nothing about it. Now, I will say that the voice acting is in Japanese, but everything else is in English. So if you're not fluent in Japanese or know the common parlance of Japanese, you might get lost when you're trying to figure out what the ships are saying. But to me, I never know what my little ships are saying anyway. I know that's horrible to say, but oops. Well, I tried to do a Japanese flag, but it's kind of hard to do shapes in voxelized games, I found. But at the end of the day, I have more fun in Azur Lane than any other mobile game. And I really don't know why. It's captured my attention span. It's really got me on this World War II ship kick, trying to figure out their actual history. But if you have a decent mobile device and just need something to play around with during this pandemic, I really suggest looking into Azur Lane. I mean, not to mention, they are ship girls, which means they're going to be chibi ships. And yeah, sometimes for some odd reason, some of them what's the nice way of putting this? It's very fan servicey too. If you're not into anime or manga, you don't know what that means. It means that some of the ships are running around in bathing suits. And I'm looking at you, Eagle Union, because you're bad about that. Most of the ships from the Eagle Union are running around in bathing suits, or barely even dressed half the time. Whereas the Z-23, the Iron Blood, and the Royal Navy actually dress in their cultural significant way. So you look at the Iron Blood, and they're dressed in the Kriegsmarine type uniforms from World War II. And yes, every ship so far in Azur Lane is from World War II, which means Iron Blood is technically Germany. The Royal Navy is, of course, England and London. And the Eagle Union is America. And I tried to do a Union Jack, but I could not figure out how to do a Union Jack, and it's such a small space. So I sort of done a weird version of the flag of England. And yes, the flag of England and the Japanese flag actually look the same, and I am sorry, but it's kind of hard to do decent shapes in a voxelized game. And for the Eagle Union flag, I literally had to guess. The gray box there is supposed to be blue, so you got the star field here, and then you got the red and white stripes here, and it's the best I could do in a voxelized game. But as I said, Azur Lane, a very fun game. Very, uh, I mean, you can grind in this game for an hour, and it doesn't feel like you've grinded in the game because each little map has its own things. And I will actually like to point out that the game actually introduced last year submarines. And out of the submarines that they've released so far, the U-boats from the Iron Blood seems to be the best bet. They've released some Japanese and some Eagle Union submarines, but pure damage output and their skills that they actually buff off each other, I would like to point out that the Iron Blood U-boats do buff off each other and do some pretty decent damage. And that's another thing about this game, is it's not strictly, oh, I want to build a all Royal Navy fleet. You can do that and they will actually buff off each other, but it's fun to actually have mixed fleets. I mean, for the longest, for a good 5 months before they dropped the Iron Blood event where I picked up the rest of my Iron Blood fleet, I had a mixed fleet of the Z-23, the Prince Eugen, and a Japanese ship up front. Then in the back I had the USS Tennessee, a battleship, the USS Pennsylvania, a battleship, and the Lexington, USS Lexington, which is a aircraft carrier. And the only bad thing about this game is everybody is obsessed with the USS Enterprise, and I do not know why. The Graf Zeppelin skills are a lot better. Even the little HMS Unicorn skills are way better than the Enterprise, which, by the way, for a gold rank ship, are what does the game call it? Rare ship. The Enterprise only has one skill that doubles the damage of your torpedo and dive bombers. That is its only skill. The little ship you start off with, the Long Island, before you can build any more of the aircraft carriers, has quick takeoff and another skill once you retrofit her. The quick takeoff and her other little skill, to me, in my book, in this game, are a lot better than Enterprise's one-off Lucky E skill that doubles the damage. My little ships with torpedoes, even if it's just the little regular straight firing torpedoes, can out damage the Enterprise's double damage, especially if you go with the Eagle Union dive bombers and torpedo bombers. But if you mix her up and put her with maybe a Barracuda and a Ju-85 dive bomber, you can, it probably does the maximum amount of damage. But you got to remember, you can also put in battleships in your main fleet, and the battleships, I would like to point out and recommend anybody getting from the Eagle Union is the USS Tennessee, because the USS Tennessee has the unique skill of lessening your enemy's firepower. I think on her maximum, at the skill's maximum, I think it's 50% reduction in damage output to your enemies, and that skill once it kicks off, is hilarious. Because even if it's a big bag battleship and the USS Tennessee does her skill, that means that big battleship only is going to do 50% of its maximum firepower, which gives your little Vanguard fleet, your little heavy and light cruiser and destroyer fleet, time to get out of the way, and if they're hurting, it won't hurt them as much. For the Royal Navy, I would like to recommend the Erebus or the Terror. And what their unique skill does is it summons a barrage, a special barrage that does a lot of damage. In the early game, the Erebus and the Terror can do a lot of damage. And they both have the same skill. For the Sakura Empire, it's up for debate. What kind of ship do you really, battleship do you really want to go for? Right now, I think I've got the battleship Fuso. I think that's how you pronounce it. And I retrofitted her to be a battleship that can send off a squad of a one-time squad of dive bombers, which I think is hilarious. For the Iron Blood, there's not many ships that you can. There's only the light cruiser and the destroyers you can actually grind for. So I won't recommend a battleship from them because you can't build them unless they actually drop the event. And some other ships I would like to recommend you stay away from besides the Enterprise is the Akagi and Kaga from the Sakura Empire. The Akagi and Kaga, they each have, they really don't have the skill to be so hard to get, because the Akagi took me 4 months of grinding to get her, because the only way you can get her is through grinding, and I grinded for like 4 months in one chapter alone, and I grinded and I grinded and when I finally got her, I thought she was going to be okay, but she wasn't. Now, the aircraft carriers I would recommend from the Eagle Union are the Lexington and the Saratoga. The Lexington and Saratoga are pretty neat, and I think they both have the cover artillery skill, which ever so often they will fire a heavy cruiser barrage at your enemy, and that skill can be upgraded. For the Sakura Empire, the Zukaku I would recommend, as well as her sister. Just don't upgrade her sister's ability that says that when she takes damage, she's taking double damage, just to protect her sister ship. For the English, their heavy cruiser, their sorry, I don't know if I said heavy cruiser. Their aircraft carrier Ark Royale, the Unicorn, and if you can, the Illustrious, I would recommend, but I would recommend the Ark Royale at the top of the list, especially if you go into the once you start doing hard missions and getting the cores. You can actually equip the Ark Royale with the very torpedo bombers that, which to me is hilarious. But her skill, Swordfishes, actually spawns in, I think. I don't have the game up right now, but I think it either spawns in a special barrage of swordfishes, or makes the swordfishes do more damage. Now, I know I said earlier that the Barracuda is a very strong torpedo bomber from the Royal Navy, but on the Ark Royale, you want to go with swordfishes because I think it's hilarious. But you can put Barracudas on her, but I just think it's hilarious to keep her in stock of swordfishes. And again, on the Iron Blood, they only have one aircraft carrier, and unfortunately, you can only get her from an event. But back to the Royal Navy, if you can't get the Erebus or Terror, or find they really don't work for you, the Prince of Wales, War Sprite, and Queen Elizabeth are pretty nice as well. If you can't get the Tennessee or if you can't get the Tennessee from the Eagle Union, which I don't see why you can't, because she's actually a rank blue, which is just above common. But you can actually get her pretty early on, I think, as well. You can actually grind for her. But if you can't get to Tennessee, another Eagle Union battleship I would recommend is the Pennsylvania. She's only got one skill, but that one skill is pretty neat. But another one I could recommend, I would have to say, I would have to say probably any of the state named ships. The Arizona is neat, especially if you're running a all-destroyer Vanguard, or a bunch of Vanguards with light armor, because when she sinks, if someone actually sinks Arizona, she has a skill that actually buffs the Vanguard and heals them a little bit. And don't get, the last word on this game is don't get hung up on gold ships. Gold ships, yeah, they're rare or ultra rare or whatever this game calls them, but really the blue and purple ships can sometimes have better skills and have better damage output than a gold ship. And even the ships you start out with, the Z-23, the Laffy, or the Javelin, they start out as a blue, and you can retrofit them into a purple. And another last word I would like to point out is, if you get a ship and it has a retrofit option, keep her around. Because when you finish retrofitting her, once you figure out how to retrofit her, because level 85, sometimes level 90. I know some of the Japanese ships have to be level 90 to get that last little bit of skill going, but once you upgrade and retrofit every the ship you want, say the Z-23, she gets massively more survivability and more firepower, and she actually picks up another skill. But I highly recommend, when you get a ship, see if it can be retrofitted. If it can be retrofitted, save her. But yeah, this has been my review on Azur Lane. Highly recommended. You don't need to put any microtransactions into this game. In fact, there's not many things you can do if you do in fact decide to put real money in this game, but buy more wisdom cubes. Maybe buy the little wedding rings so you can oath your ships, which is actually a very good idea that I forgot to mention. You do eventually, if you, I think eventually the game will give you a wedding ring. There's a special little like thing you can do every day. If you go to the shop auction and go to the premium shop, the little 3D model, if you click on her twice a day, eventually she will actually gift you 2 wedding rings. If they haven't changed it, she will actually gift you 2 wedding rings, and that's a free, once you get their affinity for you up, that is a free 10% bonus to firepower. So with real money you can actually buy wedding rings, dock expansions, more wisdom cubes, and coins and all. And that is the only thing that you can actually buy with real money, which if you do like I do and save, once it's not an event season, save as many wisdom cubes as you can between event and from non-event to event, you can actually rack up the wisdom cubes. And if you log in every day through the month, they will actually give you wisdom cubes ever so often, and it's up to like 10 wisdom cubes they will actually gift you on one day. So that's 5 aircraft carriers or battleships you can build, or 10 light or destroyer class ships you can build. But this has been my review of Old Fox. Highly recommended. My next review is going to be on Wednesday. Excuse me. My next review is going to be on Tuesday, and this is going to be a 2-parter. So this is the review for the game, and the next review is going to be from the manga. I mean, not the manga, but the show that's on Funimation and Hulu, dubbed Azur Lane, because the show, it really depicts the Enterprise more powerful than what she is in the game, and I just have issues with that show. But the game for now, highly recommended. If you can and have the patience, I highly recommend doing the Iron Blood boxes. And if you really do a Eagle Union fleet, do a Sakura Empire fleet. In fact, right now in my game, that's what I've got going on. I've got a Sakura fleet, I have got a Iron Blood fleet, and right now I'm working up to a Royal Navy fleet. I'm still trying to figure out what I want to do about the Eagle Union fleet right now, but as of right now, I am level 80 in the game, and it took me quite a long time to do it. But if you play every day and you are enjoying the game, you really can't tell that you've been playing for an hour. Especially if you do what I do. I do my dailies by literally setting my phone beside me. You gotta fight 10 times a day. So I set my phone beside me. I pick a map that I know that I can win on, which is, well, I think most of my ships can pretty much probably go up to chapter 6, but right now I'm working on chapter 5, and I'm working on not only the regular chapter 5 but hard chapter 5. once the regular chapter 5 is going on, once these events are finally done and over with. But right now I'm just going through the events, and the events, you can just pick a little chapter on the node on the event, click on it, set it aside, move your ships around and fight, and do everything, do anything else. And sometimes I sit and do my events while I'm playing around on Minecraft or watching TV. Or I also play World of Tanks while I'm playing Azur Lane. But this has been Old Fox, and highly recommend you try and play Azur Lane on mobile devices. Now, I do know that Japan has a PlayStation 4 version of Azur Lane, but I don't know outside of Japan if you can actually play that. I know I've seen it on Amazon. I didn't pick it up because I don't know, like I said, if you can technically play it in other places other than Japan, because I know a lot of stuff is region locked. But as far as I know, any new phone or high grade phone, touchscreen phone, can run Azur Lane. Now, I could be wrong on that, but I mean, I've got a Stylo 4 and it runs just fine. But highly recommended. You know what? I usually don't do ratings, but for this game I will do a 5 torches out of 5 torches. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, there we go. This game is a 5 torch out of 5 torches. Highly enjoyable and highly grindable if you're just looking for something just to spend time with. But this has been Old Fox, and this has been a very long review of Azur Lane, because I figured I'd like give you a few heads up and try to describe some of the game mechanics and give you a few recommendations. Now, as far as I know, those recommendations could be bad or could be good, because this game is really on how you really want to battle and how you really want to set up your fleets. So it's up to you on how you want to do it. But for now, I will see you Thursday, where I will try to do a review on the Azur Lane anime that's on Funimation and Hulu. But until then, this has been Old Fox, and I'll catch you later.